Boys, ladies, gentlemen, and ladies, one day crusty bowl of bread. Sunday loaf is what we're calling it because I made it on a Sunday. But, anyways, this is a 1 day loaf. No playing around. We're not doing anything crazy. We just need a scale, a bowl, flour, water, salt, yeast. Let's do this. 375 grams whole wheat flour. I'm doing a whole wheat loaf because I like the way whole wheat tastes. So the percentages might be a little different because water works with whole wheat a little bit different than it does with just white flour. So you probably could replicate this with all white flour, but at the same time, just find a white bread flour recipe if you want to do that. Anyways, 375 grams of whole wheat flour here, along with 125 grams of white flour. And I used acorn flour, which is an ancient grain. It just has more vitamins, and I think it has a little bit more flavor. But it does absorb and it has less gluten. So it's going to act differently in the bread. It's going to rise a little bit less, but it'll still be a good bread. Hashtag nutrition. Anyways, 400 grams of filtered warm water. Don't ask me why it needs to be filtered. I just feel like it does. Cleaner water, cleaner bread, right? Once that's all mixed up, you're going to do a 20 to 30 minute autolyse period. And this is just combining the flour and water without anything else. And it basically leaves the mixture to rest. And during the time, your gluten is going to begin to form and the dough is going to take on a smoother texture and strengthen overall. And in the presence of water, enzymes in the flour begin to function. So the dough is going to get a lot stretchier. But once that period is over, 20 to 30 minutes, you're going to add 1.5 to 2 grams of yeast and 8 grams of salt right into the middle of the dough. And the reason we don't do salt at the beginning is the salt can actually interfere with the activity of the autolyse. So we add it later with the yeast where, well, it won't interfere. You can use a little bit more salt than 8 grams. I kept it on the lower end, but really you could go all the way up to 11 or 12 if you want more salty flavor in your bread. But to incorporate this, just sort of encase it in the middle of the dough. Just sort of fold it over itself and create that center where the salt and the yeast are going to sit. And then you're going to use what's called a pincer method. Now, I'm probably not doing the pincer method textbook, but this always works for me. And basically what the pincer method is just grabbing the dough with your pointer finger and your thumb, theoretically. I'm using my whole hand, but using your pointer finger and your thumb to break up the dough into clumps and then reincorporate it back together. But after that, you're just going to do one little set of folds. So just stretch and fold over itself like you're seeing right here. Simple as that. You're not going to be kneading this dough at all. You're just going to be folding it. You're going to leave it to rise for 4 to 5 hours, but within the first hour and a half, you're going to perform 3 sets of these folds, which, as you can see right here, is just a simple stretch over itself. You're not doing anything crazy. You're not making the dough more elastic than it is. You're just pulling it as far as it can go and then pulling it over itself. I did about 4 folds per, and I just make sure it's in a nice ball, and then I recover it every 30 minutes for the first hour and a half. This rise is going to take a total of 4 to 5 hours, maybe 6, or maybe less, depending on how warm or cold your kitchen is. But the goal here is to get it to about tripled in size. Some times you won't get that. I actually didn't get it, but that's also because the acorn flour I use does not rise as much as a white flour would because it has a lower gluten content. This bread is great for a weekend day where you're not doing much because really there's no activity that you have to do other than these folds. It's a lot of waiting around. And as you can see, this is getting stretchier every time I'm folding it. And that means that gluten is developing and we're getting what we want. And the reason we do this over kneading is because it's sort of less aggressive and it allows for more bubbles in the bread and air to incorporate. But once your fermentation is done, which will take about 4 to 5 hours, or in this case, it's not exactly fermentation, it's just rising, you're going to flour a proofing basket. But if you don't have that, just flour a fresh bowl. It'll do the same thing. Or alternatively, you can use loaf pans if you want to make more of a sandwich bread. Just go ahead and put a little bit of flour on a surface. You don't want to use too much because you don't want to add too much flour to the bread. Put that guy right under the counter. Be a little gentle as you're getting it out of the bowl. It will be a little sticky. You want to keep those air bubbles that are in the dough as intact as possible because that's going to add to the crumb of the bread. But shaping, this is how I do it. I'm doing it as a boule of bread, or basically just a round. This is how I do it. You just basically keep stretching each corner until it's in a nice tight little ball, and then you turn it over onto itself, and it will be theoretically a nice pretty circle. This is a lower hydration dough, so it's a lot easier to work with than something that maybe a sourdough that's super sticky, so this makes life a little bit easier. But as you can see, it's nice and circular, looks pretty, and it's going to go straight into the proofing basket and cover it up for about an hour. While this guy's proofing, go ahead and preheat your oven with a Dutch oven in there at about 475 while it's proofing. You want the Dutch oven to heat up for about an hour at temperature. You want it to get really, really hot. But after that hour is over, your bread should be a little bit risen, expanded in its proofing bowl, and you're going to do the finger dent test. As you can see, when I press down, it bounces back a little bit slowly, but it doesn't come back all the way. That means it's ready. If it bounces back immediately and does not leave an indentation, it is not ready. If it doesn't bounce back at all, it is overproofed and it needs to be baked now. But anyways, I'm scoring my bread here. This is important because it gives the bread a better spring in the oven because it has place to expand. Now, I tried to get pretty with it and draw these leaves and a stick. I'm not an artist, and you'll see it doesn't look anything like that when it comes out. I'm trying to get better at the scoring thing, but man, I am not good. You can also just use a knife if you don't have a lame. But use some parchment paper, throw it right into the Dutch oven, and it's going to go right back into the oven. You're going to do 30 minutes covered. Then after that 30 minutes passes, you're going to uncover it. Now, once you uncover it, you're going to bake it a little bit longer for maybe 10 to 20 minutes. This can vary greatly. Mine actually only took about 5 to basically start burning on the top and get a nice dark brown rich color, which is what you're going for with this sort of bread. A crustier French bread, you could call it. But once it has that dark brown and a little bit of burning on the top, you want to skip the burning, but it's done. Make sure to rest it for 20 to 30 minutes because it's still cooking after it comes out, but slather it with butter and have a heart attack. Enjoy.